Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into a really fascinating and, well, maybe unsettling question.
Which is?
Could ancient civilizations have actually possessed and maybe even used nuclear weapons?
Wow, okay. That's a big one.
It is. Our listeners sent us down this rabbit hole with some pretty compelling sources. It's mostly based on a YouTube video looking at urban legends, but also some scientific findings.
Right, blending those two worlds.
Exactly. So our mission today is to sift through this material, really examine the evidence they present for ancient nuclear conflicts here on Earth, and maybe even, get this, on Mars.
Mars, okay. This is definitely charting a course into some less explored territory, isn't it? Looking at familiar stories through a very different lens.
Totally. A lens informed by, our modern understanding of nuclear power.
Makes sense.
So the video we looked at kicked off with some really thought-provoking AI images.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, one showed this, super advanced-looking early human, and another imagined the Akashic Records. Not as books, but as some kind of hyper-sophisticated alien civilization.
Pure speculation, obviously.
Oh, completely. But it kind of primes your mind, doesn't it, to consider possibilities way outside the usual history lessons.
It's a good way to open things up, yeah.
Yeah.
To maybe nudge us into thinking, okay, what if what we think we know isn't the whole story?
Right. The boundaries of knowledge are always moving.
Exactly.
Which actually brings us to a pretty sobering point the video made.
What's that?
That sometimes current world events, they feel weirder and frankly more terrifying than even the craziest urban legends.
I can see that.
And when you think that there are, something like 12,700 nuclear weapons on Earth right now?
Yeah. It's a staggering number.
It really makes you wonder, is this kind of insane destructive power totally new? Or could something like it have been unleashed, way back in the past?
That awareness we have now of what these weapons can do, it definitely colors how we look back at historical mysteries or archaeological finds, doesn't it?
For sure. We're looking back through the prism of our own anxieties, our own knowledge.
Makes sense.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's dig into a really perplexing site. Mohenjo-daro.
Ah, yes, the Indus Valley civilization.
Exactly. A huge city flourishing around 2500 BC, super advanced for its time, grid-planned streets, amazing water supply, drainage, public baths.
Truly sophisticated urban planning.
But then, around 1800 BC, it just declines. Quite suddenly.
And the video highlighted something specific.
Yeah, a really weird discovery from the 1920s. They found 46 human skeletons.
Okay. Burials.
That's the thing. No, they weren't in graves. They were just scattered, clumped together in random spots.
That is odd.
And what's really unsettling is that some of these bones apparently showed signs of being exposed to, extreme heat.
Intense temperatures.
Yeah, and also unusually high radioactivity, something like 50 times normal background level, supposedly.
Whoa. High heat and radiation. That's quite a combination.
It is. It really pushes you to think beyond, floods or fires.
Yeah, you have this advanced city. It declines rapidly. You find skeletons just lying around with these weird signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it paints a strange picture.
And get this. The local name for the site translates to Hill of Death.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Because of all the bones found over the years?
Apparently so. Just lots of unidentified remains. Adds to the whole eerie vibe, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Then there's this phenomenon they call the town turned into glass.
Turned into glass? What does that mean?
Well, they found this strange black, glassy stuff, like fused earth, blackstone they called it.
Okay.
Scientists later identified it as tektite.
Tektite. Isn't that formed by meteorite impacts? The heat melts the ground and it cools super fast into glass.
Exactly. That's usually how it forms. But here's the kicker.
Let me guess. No crater.
Bingo.
No
confirmed meteorite crater nearby, and no signs of massive volcanic activity from that time either.
Huh. So where did the intense heat come from to make the tektites? That is a head-scratcher.
Right. It challenges the standard explanation. You need incredible heat, but the usual suspects' impacts, volcanoes, seem to be missing.
So what else could do it?
Well, that's where things get interesting. They also found excavated pottery that was melted, bricks fused together.
Melted pottery. Fused bricks. That takes serious heat.
It does. Analysis suggests they hit 1,000 to 1,500 degrees Celsius, but only for a very short time.
Short duration, high temperature. That's a very specific signature, isn't it? Different from a long-burning fire.
Exactly. It's that intense, localized heat without an obvious natural cause that really fuels these more out-there theories.
Like a nuclear blast.
That's the implications some people draw.
But we need to be careful here, right? The video acknowledged this isn't proven fact.
Oh, absolutely not. Far from it. For one thing, the number of skeletons, while weirdly placed, isn't actually that huge. Only 37 positively identified out of the 46 found.
Right. Not exactly evidence of mass annihilation on its own.
And mainstream archaeology has other explanations. Flooding, big fires, even that old, largely debunked Aryan invasion theory.
Okay, so conventional explanations exist.
They do. Plus, the exact spot of this supposed glass town, it's apparently not clearly verified archaeologically, so, grains of salt are needed.
Definitely. It's compelling, the anomalies are there, but it's circumstantial. No smoking gun, so to speak. We need that critical perspective.
Okay, let's shift gears. Another source mentioned was the Mahābhārata.
Ah, the great Indian epic.
Massive poem, yeah. Describes this huge war, the Kurukshetra War, maybe around the 10th century BC. The casualty numbers are just insane, potentially 2 to 4 million dead in just 18 days.
Mind-boggling scale.
But it's the weapons described in the epic that really make you pause.
How so?
Well, it talks about astral weapons invoked by mantras, flying things called vimanas that deliver weapons, and then there's the Brahma Sutras, described as utterly devastating.
Like devastating in what way?
Wiping out huge areas, leaving land barren, causing what sound like genetic effects, even threatening the whole cosmos.
Barren land, genetic effects. That does sound eerily like
nuclear fallout, right. It's hard not to see the parallel. And remember, the Mahābhārata was written down around the 4th century BC. That's ancient history.
The parallels are striking, I agree. The imagery, intense heat, mass death, long-lasting environmental damage. It resonates with what we know about nuclear weapons. Even that idea of activating it with a mantra, the Astra, well, maybe symbolic, the results described are just wow.
The video also brought up Robert Oppenheimer,
the Manhattan Project lead scientist.
Yeah. He was known to be fascinated by Hindu scriptures, especially the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Mahābhārata.
Right, his famous quote after the Trinity test, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," is from the Gita.
Exactly. But the video mentioned another quote, maybe less known, attributed to him after that test. That's not the first, but it's the first in our time.
Oh, not the first. That's intriguing. What could he have meant?
Right. Makes you wonder, was he just being philosophical, or did he see something in those ancient texts that made him think this kind of power wasn't entirely new?
Given his deep study of those texts, it's a fascinating possibility that he might have contemplated similar destructive forces described in the past.
However, we also need the counter-arguments. The video mentioned the Skeptoid website.
Ah, the skeptical viewpoint.
Yeah, they cast doubt on some claims, like whether a weapon called Iron Thunder is actually mentioned in reliable English translations of the Mahābhārata.
That highlights a key problem, doesn't it? Translation issues over thousands of years. Oral tradition first, then written, then translated.
So much can get lost or changed. How accurate is the specific terminology we're reading now?
Exactly. It's a huge challenge. You'd ideally want to cross-reference original texts, but even that is complex. Nuances vanish, interpretations shift. Critical analysis is vital.
Okay, next point. The video mentioned an alleged radioactive area in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, in modern India.
Okay, what about it?
Supposedly linked to high rates of birth defects and cancer, maybe hinting at an ancient nuclear event.
But wait, didn't India conduct nuclear tests relatively recently in Rajasthan?
They did. Pokhran, 1974, also in Rajasthan.
Right. So wouldn't that be a much more likely explanation for any elevated radiation or health issues in the region?
Seems far more plausible, yeah. And it raises the question, how long would radiation from a really ancient event, thousands of years ago, even be detectable at significant levels?
Well, that depends on the specific isotopes, their half-lives. Some can persist for a very long time. But linking modern health issues directly back thousands of years, especially with known recent nuclear activity nearby, that requires extraordinary proof. Much more likely related to the Pokhran tests.
Agreed. Distinguishing ancient from modern sources needs some serious science.
Absolutely. Rigorous analysis.
Okay, now let's broaden the scope, like way out. Mars.
Mars. Okay, you mentioned this earlier. Ancient nuclear war on Mars.
That's the theory. The video introduced Dr. John Brandenburg, a physicist. He published a paper in 2014.
And his theory was
that ancient Martian civilizations were wiped out by a nuclear attack. And he even speculates the attackers were aliens.
aliens nuked Mars. Wow, okay, what's his evidence for that?
Well, he points to high levels of certain isotopes in the Martian atmosphere, specifically argon-40 and xenon-129.
Argon and xenon.
Yeah, he argues the ratios are weirdly similar to what we found on Earth after our atmospheric nuclear tests back in the 50s.
Yep.
They're byproducts of uranium fission, apparently.
Okay, so he's drawing a direct line between Martian atmospheric composition and Earth's post-nuclear test atmosphere.
Yeah.
A bold connection. The isotopes are linked to fission, that's true.
He also argues that radioactive stuff on the surface, uranium, thorium, radioactive potassium, is consistent with hydrogen bomb fallout.
Those elements exist on Mars, yes.
Yeah.
The question is their concentration and distribution. Interpreting that as evidence of H-bombs across the planet, that's the contentious part.
He even pinpoints two potential ground zeros, Cydonia and Zay.
Cydonia. Isn't that where the face on Mars is?
The very same. And another area called Galaxious Chaos, he says rover photos show concentrated artifacts there. And based on the isotope levels, he estimates the blasts were huge, like several billion megatons.
Billion megatons.
Yeah.
That's astronomical energy. And artifacts. That's always subjective, isn't it? Pareidolia is a powerful thing.
True. But one interesting point he makes is about the lack of obvious giant craters.
Right. If there were billion megaton impacts, you'd expect massive craters.
His explanation: airbursts, like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, detonated in the atmosphere to maximize the destructive blast wave over a wide area, not dig a hole.
That is a known nuclear weapons strategy. It offers a potential explanation for the missing craters, assuming the premise is correct.
And he suggests it wasn't Martians nuking themselves, but an external attack. The video also threw in that Wernher von Braun, the rocket guy, supposedly wanted to send an archaeologist to Mars.
Von Braun. Really? If true, that adds a layer of intrigue, doesn't it? Wondering what he thought might be found there.
It does, though the whole alien nuclear attack, it's pretty far out there.
It's definitely deep into speculative territory. Fascinating, but highly speculative.
The video also quickly mentioned another idea, more from the spiritual world, apparently.
Okay.
A lost planet, Mardek, between Mars and Jupiter, supposedly destroyed in a nuclear war, creating the asteroid belt and also showering Mars with radiation.
The Marduk-Tiamat myth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pops up in alternative cosmology circles. No scientific evidence, of course, but it speaks to that theme of ancient cosmic catastrophe.
Right. Just another thread in this strange tapestry.
Indeed.
Finally, the video touched on Einstein. First, a quote often attributed to him about love being this cosmic force that could save humanity.
Let me guess, probably not actually Einstein.
Likely not, no. The video clarified that. But then it shared a verified Einstein quote.
Which was?
This world is a dangerous place. Not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing.
That one hits differently, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially after discussing all this potential destruction.
Yeah. A powerful thought about inaction and responsibility.
It provides a stark, realistic counterpoint to the more hopeful, if possibly fake, quote. A call to awareness, maybe.
So, wrapping this up, where does it leave us? It's this really unsettling mix, isn't it?
How so?
We've got these intriguing possibilities of ancient nuclear war, fueled by weird archaeology and suggestive ancient texts.
But no definitive proof. Lots of debate, lots of alternative explanation.
Exactly. But when you place it alongside our current nuclear reality and these wild theories about Mars, it does make you think. About cycles, maybe? Civilization rising and falling?
It certainly prompts profound questions, even without proof of ancient nukes. The convergence of these anomalies and interpretations is potent. It's a reminder, perhaps, of the potential for self-destruction, or maybe encounters with things we don't understand.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could advanced societies have existed and vanished here or elsewhere long before our history books even begin?
And if they did, what lessons are buried with them? Lessons about technology, power, conflict. Lessons we might need now.
It really underscores the fragility, maybe, of complex societies and the risks that come with great power.
And the importance of learning from the past, however murky it is.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with.
Go on.
If, and it's a big if, but if humanity or any civilization has faced this kind of devastating reset button in the distant past, what does that say about our responsibility now? With the knowledge and the power we currently have, what responsibility do we bear to make sure the future is, well, different, more sustainable? Maybe not just for us, but, cosmically speaking.
That is the crucial question, isn't it? Moving from speculating about the past to taking responsibility for the present and future. A heavy thought indeed.